For 5 years, my marriage to Isabelle, my boss, had been our most closely guarded secret. It was a reality known only to the two of us, a quiet arrangement that hummed silently beneath the surface of our professional lives. That silence was shattered by a single, casual comment from her closest friend. She had mentioned with an air of shared excitement that Isabelle was considering going public soon, even talking about a proper wedding ceremony. The news should have been a relief, the culmination of years of waiting. But the context was all wrong. I called Isabelle, my wife, to ask her about it. She was curt on the phone, telling me she was leaving for a business trip that would last several days, and that I shouldn't bother her unless it was an absolute emergency. Her tone was dismissive, final. 3 days later, I found myself standing at the back of a lavishly decorated wedding hall. I wasn't a guest. I was a ghost, quietly watching the woman I had been married to for half a decade exchange rings and a passionate kiss with another man on a brightly lit stage. The man was Daniel, her longtime friend, and, as I was now seeing with painful clarity, her true partner. My work, the very foundation of my professional identity, was now credited to him. My wife was marrying someone else in front of friends and family, and my entire existence in her life had been rendered a footnote, the setup for a cruel and elaborate deception. I stood up from my seat in the shadows. Her eyes scanned the crowd and found mine, and for a fleeting moment a look of pure panic flashed across her face. "What are you doing here?" she mouthed, her smile faltering. I managed a faint smile of my own, raising my glass in a mock toast. "I came to offer my blessings," I said, though she was too far away to hear. "Wishing you two a lifetime of happiness together." With that private, bitter sentiment, I downed the wine in my glass and walked out of the hall, leaving the celebration behind me. As I expected, Isabelle didn't follow me. My phone remained silent, no calls, no texts. The void of her response was the only confirmation I needed. I didn't see her again until late that night. The front door burst open, and she stumbled in, bringing with her a blast of cold night air and the strong scent of alcohol. For years I had grown accustomed to this routine, waiting for her to come home, only for her to unload all her frustrations and anger onto me, and I would absorb it all, a silent partner to her moods. But tonight was different. Tonight I had no intention of pacifying her, of smoothing over the cracks in our foundation without any regard for myself. "Alex, why were you there today?" she demanded. Her voice sharp despite the slur of intoxication. "You shouldn't have been there. You're just a low-level employee at the company. Your presence at my wedding makes people suspicious of our relationship." She spoke as if our relationship was a business liability to be managed. "I only had a fake ceremony with Daniel because it was his long-standing wish. We've been friends for years. Fulfilling this one wish isn't too much to ask, is it?" I had to force a smile, a hollow gesture that felt foreign on my face. "So, starting tomorrow, everyone at the company will believe you're married to Daniel? You're perfectly fine with them seeing the two of you as a couple?" My question seemed to irritate her. She frowned, her patience wearing thin. "What exactly is bothering you? I told you it's a fake marriage with Daniel. Why do you care what other people think? I've been married to you for 5 years. What more could you possibly want? If it wasn't for Daniel, I never would have agreed to marry you in the first place." Her last words hung in the air between us, and I fell silent, the weight of them finally crushing what little hope I had left. My history with Isabelle began in our sophomore year of college. I fell for her the moment I saw her, a kind of immediate, overwhelming affection I had never experienced before. I had never dated anyone, never even had a serious crush. To get her to notice me, I fell into a routine of devotion. I brought her breakfast every morning, made sure we were enrolled in the same classes, and engineered accidental meetings across campus. She accepted all my gestures of kindness without question, and in my naivety, I mistook her acceptance for reciprocation. I lived in a self-created illusion of an impending romance, completely blind to the reality of the situation. The illusion shattered one afternoon when I saw her pleading with Daniel, the popular heartthrob of our major, to accept a piece of cake she had bought for him. In that single, desperate gesture, I saw the truth. She loved him, not me. Daniel was the one she adored, the one she was trying to win over. What Isabelle didn't see, or perhaps chose to ignore, was that Daniel partied harder than anyone and put minimal effort into his studies. Because of her feelings for Daniel, I could never quite break through the final barrier between us. Then, in our graduation year, Isabelle approached me with an offer. She said she would be my girlfriend if I gave her my graduation project, a complex piece of software I had spent the better part of a year developing. I was thrilled, foolishly thinking that she had finally seen through Daniel's shallow exterior and was choosing me. The reality hit me on graduation day. I sat in the audience and watched Daniel stand confidently on stage, presenting my work as his own. With my project, he not only graduated as an outstanding student, but also secured a coveted position at the country's leading tech company. I wanted to demand an explanation from Isabelle, to confront her about the betrayal, but I was terrified that any conflict might destroy the fragile relationship I thought we had. So I let it go. Shortly after we graduated, Isabelle proposed marriage. The proposal came with conditions. I had to come work at her family's company, and any intellectual property I created while employed there would belong solely to her. It was a stunning development, the very thing I had dreamed of for years. However, our married life was nothing like I had imagined. Isabelle kept me at a distance, both emotionally and physically, and she was seldom home. It was only later that I learned the whole arrangement had been Daniel's idea. He was struggling at his new, prestigious job, unable to meet the demanding programming expectations. So he targeted me. He figured that if Isabelle married me and brought me into her company, he would have a constant, reliable source for all his programming needs. Isabelle agreed to marry me because Daniel had promised to always love her, and in her mind, being in love meant supporting each other's careers, no matter the cost. If it weren't for Daniel's career, I would have never married that country bumpkin. That was what Isabelle had confessed to her best friend, drunk on her birthday, while I stood just outside the door, listening to my world fall apart. I had always believed that if I worked hard enough, she would eventually fall in love with me. I thought if I just did enough, she would see Daniel for the fraud he was. But over the years, I remained nothing more than a tool in her eyes, a resource with feelings. With my uncredited help, Daniel's reputation in the industry soared, and Isabelle's company grew larger and more successful. And yet I was still just a lowly employee, completely at her beck and call. The last vestiges of love I held for her were finally, irrevocably extinguished by the spectacle of her wedding. I wanted to argue with her, to scream about the years of deception, but all that came out was a quiet resignation. Isabelle, let's get a divorce. Her expression shifted instantly from anger to cold indifference. A divorce? What right do you have to ask for a divorce? Ending this marriage is my decision to make, and mine alone. She straightened up, her tone becoming imperious. When you're at work tomorrow, you should know what to say and what not to say. And send me the new program as soon as it's finished. Her superior attitude was born from years of my compliance, but I wasn't a machine. I had feelings, and they had been trampled on for the last time. I'll be resigning tomorrow, I stated flatly. I'm done with this. Anger flashed across Isabelle's face. She hadn't expected me to fight back. When will you stop making a fuss? I've explained the wedding to you. Haven't things always been like this? Stop acting crazy. Think it over tonight. We'll talk tomorrow, once you've calmed down. She always acted as if any emotional turmoil I felt was something I could simply manage on my own, an inconvenience to be dealt with quietly. Outside, a cold wind drove rain against the window pane, mirroring the storm inside me. I had mentally placed a final, definitive period at the end of our relationship. The next morning, I went to the company with the sole purpose of submitting my resignation. Just as I arrived at my desk, my coworker, Mark, approached me, his face alight with gossip. "Alex, how did you keep your connection to Isabelle such a secret? Everyone in the office is talking about it now. You even went to her wedding yesterday to congratulate her. You can't tell me you two aren't close after that." I kept my expression neutral. "I don't have anything to do with Isabelle. I was just passing by the venue yesterday, saw pictures of her wedding online, and got curious. She's a nice person. She saw me and said since I was a company employee she'd let me in to watch the ceremony." Mark looked relieved. "Oh, I thought so. No way you'd have a special connection with the boss. You really freaked me out this morning." In this company, it was an open secret that Isabelle didn't particularly like me. No one saw me as a friend, and the general consensus was that it was only a matter of time before I was fired. My job consisted not only of developing 2 separate sets of programs, one for Isabelle's company and one secretly for Daniel, but also taking on the menial tasks that my coworkers didn't want to do. "Oh, here they come now," Mark whispered. I looked toward the entrance and saw Isabelle and Daniel walking in, hand in hand. Daniel carried himself with the air of someone who owned the place. Isabelle gathered the staff. "Everyone, let me introduce you all again. This is my husband, Daniel. We just got married yesterday." A round of polite congratulations echoed through the office. I joined in, my voice lost in the crowd. "As for Alex," she continued, her gaze sweeping past me without a hint of recognition, "I just happened to see him at the entrance yesterday and invited him in out of kindness. We have no special relationship. I don't want anyone to misunderstand." It was the first time Isabelle had ever mentioned me in a company-wide setting, and it was to introduce her new husband and explicitly deny any connection between us. Yesterday she had seemed panicked when she saw me at her wedding. Today she was perfectly comfortable accepting everyone's blessings right in front of me. I wondered just how many layers of disguise she wore. During the lunch break, Isabelle texted me, telling me to meet her in the underground parking garage. The timing was perfect. I needed to give her my resignation letter in person. When I got to the garage, Daniel was there too, leaning against her car while she playfully fed him a bite of her sandwich. "You're just in time," Isabelle said, her tone all business. "Don't come to my mom's birthday party the day after tomorrow. I'll be taking Daniel." Her mother, Eleanor, was a classic gold digger, a woman for whom money and status were everything. For years, as Daniel's career had taken off on the back of my work, she had been relentlessly pushing Isabelle to divorce me and marry him. She had never shown me an ounce of respect. When Isabelle and I first got married, I had worked hard to win Eleanor over. She would often call me while I was deep in work, asking me to pick up her shopping from the mall, a task a driver could have easily done. But I did it myself for 5 years, all in a futile attempt to please my mother-in-law. "Stop playing the victim," Isabelle said coldly. "Daniel and I are married now. It's perfectly normal for me to bring him home. It's not like bringing you, a mere employee, would help my mother save face." I gripped my phone tightly in my pocket. "You don't need to tell me. I already told you yesterday I want a divorce." Hearing this, Daniel, who had been watching with a smirk, suddenly looked worried. "Alex, don't be so impulsive. Isabelle and I aren't really married. We can discuss this more. Isabelle will get you a promotion." At his words, Isabelle's eyes widened, but she reluctantly added, "Fine. I'll make you the technical director. Now, are you happy?" "No need," I said, pulling the folded letter from my pocket. "I'm quitting this afternoon. Here's my resignation letter." I didn't wait to see their reactions. I placed the letter on the hood of the car, turned, and walked away. Earlier that morning, I had retrieved the small listening device I'd installed in the back seat of her car. I had originally planted it to record their conversations as evidence for the divorce, but now I had a new plan. I absolutely needed to attend that birthday party. On the day of Eleanor's birthday, I timed my arrival at her villa perfectly. I was met with the familiar disdain from her assembled relatives. In that house, I had less status than the hired help, often finding myself clearing dishes or taking out the trash. The company had originally been Eleanor's creation, and since her own divorce, she had always been immensely proud of its success. In the living room, Isabelle and Daniel were sitting on the sofa, chatting cozily with her mom. "What are you doing here?" Eleanor demanded the moment she saw me, her voice dripping with contempt. "I didn't tell Isabelle to invite you. Since you're here, make yourself useful and take out the trash." I remained calm. "It's your birthday. I'm here with a special gift." She scoffed. "A gift? What could you possibly have that's worth giving me? My daughter runs a big company. I have everything I could ever want." Isabelle blushed, looking at the harmonious scene. I remembered how, if not for her insistence back then, I would have never gotten past Eleanor's initial disapproval. She had always looked down on my background and my job, while Daniel, with his position at a top company, was her ideal son-in-law. "I'm here for 2 reasons," I announced to the room. "To present a gift, and to let you all know that Isabelle and I have decided to divorce." Her mother's eyes instantly lit up. "Really? Well, don't expect a cent from our family. My daughter worked hard to support you all this time, you ungrateful parasite. Now what's this gift?" she pressed impatiently. "Please, be patient," I said, and turned on the recording on my phone. The voices of Isabelle and Daniel filled the suddenly quiet room. "Isabelle, you must not divorce Alex," Daniel's voice pleaded. "Without him, who will do the programming for us?" "Daniel, I trust you can handle it," Isabelle's voice replied. "We've tolerated so much. I just want to be with you now." "No way. What happens to my career if he's gone? Can you stand to see all my years of hard work just go up in smoke?" Then, Isabelle's voice, placating. "If you're really that worried, I'll transfer my company shares to you. Look, I even have the contract ready. What's mine is yours." "Really? You'd give me everything?" "Yes, really, of my own free will. And if you're worried, you can sign it right now." There was the sound of a pen scratching on paper, followed by a faint smacking of lips. The room went silent. Eleanor's face was a mask of fury as she abruptly stood up. "Isabelle, what is going on? Where is that contract?" Her explosive reaction shocked Isabelle. "Everybody, please go home for now," Eleanor announced to her guests. "Sorry for letting you see this mess. We have some family issues to deal with." As the relatives filed out, Isabelle's panic grew. "Mom, calm down, okay? Once Daniel and I get the marriage certificate, won't the company still be ours? His abilities are evident to everyone, and he'll help me manage the company. We'll be a strong alliance." Eleanor shook off her daughter's hand and pointed a trembling finger at Daniel. "A strong alliance? I may be old, but I'm not deaf. Has he ever achieved anything on his own? It's all been Alex's doing. Why would you keep this from me? How could anyone have such a good son-in-law and not cherish him? And you're even thinking of... How did I end up with such a foolish daughter?" Isabelle was speechless, stunned that her mother valued the company more than her happiness. Eleanor then turned to me, her expression completely transformed. "Alex, it was my mistake to misjudge you before. You're so talented. Why didn't you speak up earlier and instead let these misunderstandings fester? I'll promote you. There's a vacancy for vice president. You take it. In the future, you and Isabelle can support each other. Shall we also redo the wedding?" Before I could respond, Daniel couldn't hold back. "Auntie, don't forget, I'm the largest shareholder in the company now. I don't agree to making Alex the vice president. Isabelle's decisions aren't my decisions. That contract is null and void. You can't dictate this." Wendy clutched her chest, shouting that Isabelle was ungrateful and calling Daniel a backstabber, while Isabelle stood by, crying in distress. After all the years of unfair treatment, Eleanor was finally getting a taste of her own medicine. Seeing the chaos unfold, I quietly slipped away. In the days that followed, I worked with a lawyer to finalize the divorce agreement, just waiting for Isabelle to sign. Throughout my years with her, I felt I had done my duty. Aside from my basic personal necessities, I had no plans to take anything from the house we had shared. What I didn't expect was to find something that would solidify my decision beyond any doubt. As I began packing, I remembered that Isabelle had mistakenly taken my expensive headphones the last time she was drunk. We had always slept in separate rooms, and I never entered hers unless absolutely necessary. Having a reason, I went in. It took me less than 30 seconds of rummaging through her bedside drawer to find them, but my eyes were drawn to something else. In the corner of the drawer was a box of birth control pills. Opening it, I saw that more than half the pills were gone. While our physical intimacy had been rare, there were times we had gotten carried away. I knew she didn't want children, and on those infrequent occasions, we had always used other precautions. Seeing those missing pills, a cold, sickening realization dawned on me. Some were taken to ensure there was absolutely no chance of her having my child. But what about the others? Were they used with Daniel? I wasn't naive about the possibility, but the tangible proof felt like a final, disgusting betrayal. I had tried so hard to cherish our marriage, to protect our home. My love for her had made me lose myself, but this home was my territory, a belief I had clung to. It turned out I had been fooling myself all along. I gathered my thoughts and my belongings, ready to leave for good. As I was heading for the door, I bumped into Isabelle coming in. She still wore her proud, aloof expression, seemingly having reached some sort of understanding with her mother. "The divorce papers are on the table," I said. "Sign them if they look okay to you." She eyed me suspiciously. "You're not trying to rob me of my assets or something, are you?" After all these years, she still didn't understand me at all. "I've also submitted my resignation to the company," I added. "Make sure you approve it," she sneered. "Do you really think you'll find another company that would take you if you leave? No way. Once you're gone, there's no coming back." I had no desire or reason to argue with her anymore. All I wanted was to start fresh somewhere else, to build a new life. A new opportunity came through a recommendation from my old college mentor. After graduation, he had constantly urged me to leave Isabelle's company, telling me I was limiting my potential. He knew my capabilities and passion for the industry, and couldn't stand to see me dim my light for what he saw as a one-sided love. I reached out to him after the divorce was finalized, and he was as enthusiastic as ever, helping me connect with other companies, submitting my resume, and personally vouching for my skills. Thanks to his help, I transitioned smoothly into a new job. My first day was a breath of fresh air. There was no awkwardness, no tension, no silent judgment. My new co-workers eagerly filled me in on project details and went out of their way to help me blend in. My life was finally getting back on track when Isabelle called. It was a lazy afternoon when my phone rang with her familiar number. I ignored it the first time. I remembered how desperately I had wanted that number back in college, asking around until someone finally gave it to me on a slip of paper. When the phone rang a third time, I answered. Isabelle's panicked, angry voice shot through the receiver. "Alex, where have you been? I called you so many times before you finally picked up. You promised me you'd be there whenever I called, no matter what." "Yes, I did promise that once," I replied calmly. "But I'm not a fool who gives everything without expecting anything in return. Besides, I'm not your husband anymore. We have nothing to do with each other now." "All right, I'll let it slide this time," she said as if she were doing me a favor. "There's an issue with a company project. The new program development is stuck at the most critical point. We need you to come back and fix it." "I handed over all the projects I was responsible for before I left," I said. "The company's issues are not my concern anymore." I refused without a second thought. "How can it not be your concern? Didn't you dedicate years of your effort to that company?" "You just want me to come back and keep working for you and Daniel," I said, my voice cold. "Don't forget, I'm done with you. Handle your own company's problems." I hung up the phone after that. I knew exactly which project she was talking about. Before I left, I had been in charge of it. A complex program designed for a major industry competition. I had laid out a rough outline and the core strategy, but it was far from complete. To finish it, they only had two options: hope for my sudden change of heart, or start over from scratch. Given the tight deadline for the competition, I knew the second option was nearly impossible. No wonder she was desperate. The irony was, my new company was also entering the same competition, and coincidentally, I was in charge of our entry. I had pulled several all-nighters, tweaking and improving every detail. I was curious to see if Isabelle would manage to push through or simply drop out. On the day of the competition, I arrived at the venue with my new colleagues. Sure enough, Isabelle and Daniel were already there. The competition proceeded smoothly through the various stages. Towards the end, I glanced over at Isabelle and wasn't surprised to see a smug, prideful expression on her face. It was a look I knew all too well. During college, she had used her family's money and influence to ensure she won every contest she entered. To her, there was no problem that money couldn't solve. While I was lost in that thought, I heard the judges announce the first prize: Group A, Alex. The moment my name was called, Isabelle's expression morphed from pride to utter disbelief. She had assumed the professional world operated like her college clubs, where any result could be bought. Unfortunately for her, this competition valued fairness and true innovation above all else. I stood up and walked onto the stage to accept my award, explaining my design concepts and creative process. In that moment, I felt like I had reclaimed the very reason I had started studying this field in the first place. That evening, the organizers hosted a party for all the participating companies. There was a constant stream of people wanting to chat with me. Before I could even finish a conversation, Isabelle rushed over and dragged me into a quiet corner. "Alex, why did you enter this competition? How could you use the program you were supposed to make for me? And Group A? How did you even get into a major group like that? Did the boss's wife take you in or something?" "Isabelle, don't project your own dirty tactics onto me," I said, my voice even. "We've been divorced for 2 months. The program I'm presenting today is entirely new. If you can't make use of the frameworks and ideas I left for you, that's your problem, not mine." My words made her eyes tear up, and she instinctively raised a hand to slap me. I stepped aside easily. "Alex, don't you love me anymore?" she asked, her voice trembling. "You told me you'd love me forever." I calmly straightened the wrinkles on my suit. "Don't come near me with that obvious wedding ring on your hand. You're not seriously thinking of making me the other man, are you?" Hearing this, Daniel, who had been hiding behind a nearby column, could no longer hold back. "Alex, you've gone too far. Isabelle was your wife, and you have the nerve to slander her?" He took Isabelle's hand possessively. "Look closely. We've been officially married for a month now. You should put away whatever pathetic thoughts you have." I couldn't help but laugh. "Daniel, you came here with Isabelle today because you were fired from your last job, didn't you?" I had heard the rumors. The tech VP at a leading domestic company who suddenly couldn't write a line of code. The news had spread quickly. With me covering for him for so many years, he had forgotten all the fundamentals. All he knew how to do was slack off at work and then hit up bars and hotels. Isabelle, in her naivety, had always believed he was going out for business deals, scolding me for not being a better networker. It seemed marriage hadn't changed his habits. Daniel looked stunned that I knew. "Fired! Do you believe such nonsense? I have company shares now. Why would I work hard for someone else? You're just another regular worker." "We'll see," I said, then turned and walked away, back to the spotlight that was rightfully mine. The faint sounds of their arguing behind me were nothing more than background noise. Months passed. I took on one major project after another, racking up considerable achievements for my company. My mentor called to tell me the boss had specifically praised my performance and was planning to promote me at the end of the month. On top of my professional success, I got to know a woman named Chloe from the department downstairs. We clicked instantly. Our daily chats by the staircase between our floors, sharing funny stories and venting about work, reignited the feeling of what it was like to be in love. In the warmth of those conversations, Chloe and I got together. While everything in my life was going so well, I read in the news that Isabelle's company had gone bankrupt. After Daniel took over, he failed to achieve anything and lost the trust of their old clients. After struggling for months, they officially closed. The news report showed Isabelle and Daniel looking utterly defeated, surrounded by upset employees demanding unpaid wages. Their house and car were mortgaged to cover their debts, and when Eleanor heard the news, she fainted from the shock and was still in the hospital. It felt like karma for the years they had stolen from me. I never expected to see her again, but one day she showed up at my company's entrance. Chloe and I were leaving work together as usual when a disheveled woman suddenly rushed toward us, begging me to take her in. We were both startled, and when I looked closer, I realized it was Isabelle. "Alex, please, save me," she cried. "I'm homeless now." She was covered in dirt and smelled of spoiled food. Instinctively, I took Chloe's hand and took a few steps back. That small movement made Isabelle look up at me, her eyes locking onto my hand in Chloe's. "Who's this woman next to you? How long has it been since we separated, and you're already with someone else? Didn't you say you loved me the most?" she asked, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Isabelle, stop fooling yourself," I said, my voice firm. "The last time we met, I made it clear, stay out of my life. This woman beside me is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. Go back to your husband. Don't come looking for me." She crawled toward me on her knees. "I messed up. I really messed up. Please save me. Daniel took the last of my money and disappeared. You're all I have left. Alex, for the sake of our years together, please, just help me get something to eat." Her tears flowed freely, and a small crowd of passers-by had started to gather, some filming the scene with their phones. "Isabelle," I said, my voice devoid of pity, "the best relationship we can have now is no relationship at all. Don't look for me anymore." I shook her hand off my leg, held Chloe's hand tightly, and walked away without looking back. The next day, a video of the incident was posted online and caught a lot of attention. People immediately recognized the former CEO, and as the news of her company's closure had already spread, her family drama became a major topic of industry gossip. After that day, Isabelle disappeared completely. No one seems to know where she went. 2 years later, because of my outstanding performance, I was promoted ahead of schedule to become the company's technical director. As Chloe and I grew closer, we began to plan our wedding, designing it exactly the way we both wanted. Over the past few years, we've learned to understand each other so well that we can communicate with just a glance. Finally, I have the complete, honest family I always wanted.